Thank you for joining us tonight, everybody. We are joined by New Japan Pro Wrestling's Karl Fredericks. How are you, man?
Doing great, man. How are you guys?
We're good. We're good. As good as we can be. Obviously, you're in LA. How's LA at the moment?
It's very cold and windy the last few days, but I think early last week it was 80 degrees, 79 at one point. So we had some good days. I've actually been home. I've been living at home in Reno again for a little over a month. I'm just back here in LA for the time being, but it's like we got like a blizzard hit home and it's snowing. So I'm happy to be here in the cold wind as opposed to the snow. I don't like.
Oh, sorry, go on.
I don't like weather. I don't like snow and all that
No,
stuff.
I know what you mean. It's we're used to the cold weather in the UK. I'm sure you've aware of what the weather's like here at times.
Yeah, and it's a thick cold. Like Midwest for a little while. I lived in Kansas right out of high school, and just the cold there because of the humidity and how damp it is. Like the UK, it's a different cold.
Yeah,
and it is not.
Dude, I got up at 6 o'clock this morning to go to work, and it took me 15 minutes to get the ice off my windscreen. It was that cold today. Every time I poured hot water on it and got in my car, and I was like, hang on a minute, there's another layer, and it was just constant. Every time I go back, another layer of ice.
Yeah, I go to the gym pretty early as well when I'm at home, and it's the same thing. I go out, my car is frozen. I have 3 jackets on, and I just sit there until I can see a little enough. Gym.
Well, anyway, dude, we've got you. We've got to talk wrestling because we all love professional wrestling. Your journey started on the US Indies, is that right? I mean, how did you first start?
I started in 2015. I would say like training full time in January, and I debuted in April, and I graduated college in May, and the next day went on the road for the first time. Left Reno. It was Sacramento, I believe, and quit my job. I was bartending on the weekends to get through college at a nightclub, and then it switched from, because I was so busy during the week with school full time. That was a perfect job for that. And then, I mean, as a wrestler, you pretty much only work weekends. So then I was kind of just to like really jump and go for that. And yeah, I quit my job the very next weekend, and all my coworkers were super supportive. And my boss was like, "Fuck yeah, man, go do that, get out of here." And luckily, it's just all I've been doing since. I mean, I had the bullshit jobs during the week in between when I was hungry on the indies and starving and all that stuff. But yeah, I got my backup plan, and I was going to be a wrestler, and here I am. So it's worked out all right.
Well, obviously we mentioned the US Indies and stuff, but I mean, mainly you've spent the majority of time in New Japan, haven't you, as well? I mean, was Japan always a goal for you? Have you always been a fan of the Japanese style?
As I started to train, I became more aware of that was going on in current Japan. Growing up, I was a huge W fan, so I got to see all the cruiserweights from around the world. So I've seen I've seen all those guys that have come through. So I've always been aware of that. And then I would say my first real look at New Japan was with what came first? Did Jericho come first, or that first Omega and Okada, that hour long, the first big, and it was one of the, as a wrestler, regardless, it's like you hear about it, you got to watch it. And then I remember thinking at the time, because again, I was American wrestler, American indies, American style, aware of that style and everything, but just watching that, I was just blown away. I was like, I mean this in a good way. I don't fucking understand this. Like this is a whole other monster, So New Japan wasn't Mexico and Japan were always big goals of mine. Yeah, because just growing up being fans of guys like Jericho and Eddie Guerrero, and anyone who's anybody's traveled the world. And if you're a wrestler, it's one thing to, obviously you want that paycheck and you want that stability and all of those things, but man, I'm just a wrestler, saying it's the goal to go wrestle in all these places. I mean, even being able to go wrestle in the UK, that was another one, obviously. And with Japan, I've been able to do that. a couple times. You know, without that, I've never been to the country on my own.
That's
Before
what I was going to mention, actually, the UK. I know Jamie's got a story about when he saw you in the UK, but I remember the first time I saw you personally was, I think it was when you were working ringside at Royal Quest.
oh,
Yeah, because I was sat there with my friend and we were looking just at the ring and was like, is that Karl Fredericks at ringside? I was looking, I was like, it is. And, you know, we were marking out over you even being at ringside, let alone the idea of you wrestling at New Japan, you know. So even back then we were like, yeah, he's a perfect fit for this. And I think it was only shortly after you maybe actually signed or started training with New Japan. Because I think that was what, 2.5 years ago now? Royal Quest.
Royal Quest was 2019, so
Yeah.
we're about a year and a half out of that. I think that was maybe 1 month before. Was that before or after the Cup? Oh, that was right before. That was right before the New Japan or the Young Lions Cup. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, and I remember even thinking then you're going to do well for yourself in New Japan, and I mean, look at what you've done now. When you look at who you've wrestled already in your time in New Japan, it's a who's who of the New Japan roster. You've wrestled so many incredible talents. What's it been like for you? Has it been overwhelming to come into New Japan and already have that track record behind you?
Man, that first G1 tour where Clark and I went in, I remember seeing the announcement that we were going to be teaming with Kenta. You know, that first night it was Clark, myself, and Kenta versus Tanahashi, Ren Narita, and Shota, and just even seeing a graphic, and respectfully so, a graphic of mine next to Narita and Shota. You know, because at that point, I've done so much more than I had as a young lion. They've been in the company for years. I was using the GTS on the indies because I have a huge respect for Kenta. For his in-ring ability, I still have that respect. You know, things are weird with that relationship, obviously, but man, that whole thing was nuts. Coming in there night one, and that was the first test. And since, you know, I've been in the ring with everybody on the roster, and I've had a singles match with Kenta. It's overwhelming if I think about it at times. Not so much in a bad way, but it's a lot because you spend so much time, you know, even before I got signed, so much time just trying to get somewhere. And then you get here, and the amount of work that was put in behind the scenes before anyone even knows that I work for this company. You know, I'm here in LA for months. You know, we're killing each other, and no one even knows I work here. You know, so it's overwhelming when I think of all there's so much, like, man, someday, when that day comes, and then that day comes, and then since then it's just been rolling down. You know what I mean? Like a downhill, good in a good way. But yeah, it's like if I look around, it's overwhelming. But if I try to just stay in it and realize that you know, I'm a part of it now, it's a little bit. But I like to appreciate it for the fact that it overwhelms me, because it's just amazing. I'm ecstatic to be working where I am, and especially this last, you know, that entire 2020, this last year, you know, that the company took care of every single one of us during that. You know, there was no stresses with work or anything like that had, you know, aside from not being able to work. So I'm very blessed, man. I'm sitting here in LA. You know, I got to live in LA for a couple of years, which was a huge goal of mine, being from the West Coast, and I'm from a tiny town, you know, so now I'm traveling the world, and I work for New Japan. So it's all just
pretty
amazing.
Sweet. Yeah, that's pretty cool, man.
Just going back a bit, obviously, Callum mentioned obviously Royal Quest and all that. You're training at the dojo. How did the dojo come about, and what was it like training with Shibata?
The whole New Japan thing came about, actually. I just happened to be in LA for 4 days one weekend in 2019, and it was rare for me. Usually most weekends would be like San Francisco, do the show, drive straight through the night, get to LA in the morning, go to the gym, get to the venue, do that show, then maybe usually drive to Vegas or Arizona, and then go back home. And I was originally trained by the Reno Scum. They work for Impact Wrestling. Yeah. So they had actually had a second booking on like the Saturday of that weekend, and New Japan was running those camp. They had been running camps all year, and they had one last 3-day camp, but they had the information on the site, but they didn't have any way to sign up. And I out to Scorpio Sky, who was the assistant coach at the time, and I had wrestled him once before the year prior, and he, had reached, he told me that I could use him as a resource, or if there's anything he could do for me. And so I reached out to him, and he basically got me in that camp because it was a really small camp. They've been running camps for months, so they kind of narrowed a lot of stuff down, and it was kind of just a private few sessions before Shibata-san was going back to Japan. And so I talked to Scorpio, paid my fee, and then I did that camp. And what they didn't know, New Japan didn't know at the time, I actually had, I was in the hiring process with WWE, and I had been doing that for, at that point, over a year. The tryout that I was getting signed out of happened in February of 2017. Right. And then September of 2017, I got my phone call. And then, or September 2017, no, September 2018. It was 2018 when I signed with New Japan. I'm sorry. So September 2017, I get my phone call from WWE. Hey, we want to bring you in, all that stuff. So I go through all the, background checks and things like that. And then it just kind of turned into, that waiting game of when you're going to report to the PC type of thing. And then I found myself a year later, a summer later, and I'm still waiting. And they were really good about that whole process, checking in with me and letting me know what was going on and all those things. But I just knew that I had to get the hell out of my hometown, and had to make a move. I knew I was ready. I knew I was ready, good enough to be signed somewhere. I knew I was ready for, and it was just, obviously now looking at the way things turned out, it would have been ignorant of me not to come to this camp or any opportunity. And I was always like that. Any opportunity, any seminar that came around, I was there. I was at those tryouts. But in that same year, 2018, that I had gotten in front of Shibata-san, and it took that one camp, and he said, here's a job. And I took that immediately. I told him, like, yes, absolutely, I'm in. Let them know that I had some phone calls to make, which, I could see that they appreciated that, my decision. But yeah, for me, it was just like my gut. I knew that it was the right thing to do. Choice. Yeah, because it's I come from an athletic background as well. I played sports my whole life, and it's just when you find a coach of his caliber, or someone, just a wrestler of his talents, and he wants me on the field. It's like, well, like, why would I not go play for that guy? It was clear to me that he saw something in me that maybe other people didn't see, and he wanted it right now. But before that New Japan camp in 2018, within like 6 months, maybe less. I mean, I was already had a contract in my pocket, essentially, I guess. But I'd gotten in front of Impact for 2 days, did two tapes with them, did a Ring of Honor seminar tryout, trying to, like, all these places. And for whatever reason, things worked out the way they were. But for Shibata-san, I was a yes on the spot. So yeah, it was something I walked into expecting, obviously, to come out to learn and come out better. And I assumed if they were opening a dojo in LA in America, and they were doing these tryouts for months, that they were looking to hire, and I just went in and competed and did my best, and here we are.
Hey, you're doing well, man. I mean, obviously the Young Lion Cup, you won the 2019 Young Lion Cup. I mean, how important was that for you?
Man, for me, that was really that first bit of validation I had in my legitimate validation I had in my career. As far as, I mean, there's a million ways you can look at it. It can be as simple as validation. I thought I was the best, and I proved that, and it was validation for, anyone that's ever told me I was never going to make money doing this, any friendships, any relationships I lost along the way, because I was wrestling for $20 for a long time. I was, traveling and missing all that stuff. And it was just like that, all those sacrifices, like this, in one turn, like a weight lifted off my shoulders, but at the same time, I don't think it felt good until probably by the time I like flew home, and was home for kind of, it's more so just like a big relief for me. Usually, I mean, anytime these big things happen, or I mean, it was like that in football for me, very in it and intense and all of those things. But when it's done for me, more so it's just like I can exhale, and it's like I did it, and it turned out how it would, and I believed all this shit was going to happen. I believed I was going to be maybe not here in this exact spot. Obviously, I predict all of this stuff, but I knew I would be a guy in a spot, and that I had that first. And on top of that too, I mean, I was the first Gaijin to do that, and so when you look at the history of this company and all those things, like it's just there's a major honor in that, and that I was even given that opportunity to be in the tournament in the first place, and then the class that we had. Like I'm very proud of that cup just because of every single person that was in that tournament. The No-Gay Dojo kids they're amazing. They're and I mean that, and I still think that. I still that's regardless of who I'm standing across the ring from, I still think I'm better. But that's just what I have to have in here if I want to win. If I'm gonna be a world-class talent, like I have to have that thought in my head, but it was just,
if you're a world champion one day, you've got to believe you're the best, right? You can't have any doubt in yourself.
I don't want to, I mean, what kind of champion am I if I'm out there wrestling bums, so like, it's just,
I think it was Chris Jericho who always says, if you're doing a promo or something, or speaking about an opponent, there's no point in saying, oh, I'm going to beat you really easily or anything, because then if you beat them, you just beat a chump. You want to be saying you are a good person, you're a great wrestler, but I'm still going to beat you, because then you beat somebody who's really good. And I think it's the same when you're thinking about, like, you need to have that for yourself as well. I am the best, because then when you go up, you're beating other people who think they're the best as well.
I think this might sound strange, but this is just kind of how I think, because I'm a strange dude. But like, what if I had the nerve to step in the ring with someone and not think that I could beat him? Like, why would I waste their time? Who am I? What am I doing here? Why are they paying me? Why would you pay me?
It's a disrespect to them as well, isn't it? Your opponent. I get what you're saying.
And my opponent too. So I mean, like, what do you mean you're not going to hit me as hard as you can? You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean you're not going to try to beat me? Or you don't think
your best?
What are we doing here? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want ranked. I want to play ranked opponents. I think it's very American. I love college football. So I kind of think in that, like, I want to play ranked opponents. I don't want to be Notre Dame padding a record and beating nobody, and and looking at well, I won all these matches, but I've done all whatever. But unless you're in there with the very best, then what does it mean?
Well,
absolutely, man.
One thing I was going to ask earlier about when you mentioned, obviously, you won the Young Lions Cup, absolutely incredible, and a great group of people. But one thing I always find interesting about the Young Lions is once they progress on from being the Young Lion, they find their own personality and their own character, so to speak. With yourself, you definitely did that. You changed up your look, your appearance, parts of your in-ring style were changing. What prompted your evolution after, like, say, graduating from being a Young Lion?
For me, I think I also had a bit of an advantage, because, I mean, if you take into account that within, I mean, I've been very lucky my whole career, actually. Kind of like I told you, I wrestled. I debuted in like April of 2015, And by that summer, like, 3 months later, I was at the PC.
Yeah.
So, and that went well. And then, the feedback I got was like, yeah, it's great. We'll see you again. So I've always just had this confidence of like, yeah, like I understand, I get this, like I'm gonna get there, So I've always been chasing had these benchmarks of like, oh, like I'm waiting for that second tryout. So that bought me a year and a half of working my ass off on the indies and getting stuff together, knowing that I'm going to that big stage. Like I've never thought of it as like if it happens, it's gonna be like a when it happens thing. So at the age of 28, when I got signed, I actually got signed on my camp was on my 28th birthday. I had all this experience and the things I think that like the Japanese young boys don't really go through because they grow up in the system. They grow their 20. They're wrestlers, man. Like that's their entire life. And I had far too many years at the university. But I have a criminal justice degrees, and I was singing and doing. I've been in bands. I've been doing music and things like that. So for me, the biggest struggle when I signed and became a young lion was stripping all of the stuff that makes me, and then putting a little.
So it's kind of the opposite to what the Japanese young boys go through.
Yeah, it was kind of retroactive, but it was wonderful because man, I'm tenfold a better fucking wrestler. Like that's where I am now, just mentally, physically, all of that stuff, and that's what Wadasan training is. That was basics down to the, there was several months where we're just in there every day, just rolling and doing jujitsu and amateur wrestling, and we're not doing any pro wrestling. We're just going in there and we're sparring all day. The training was just so well rounded in those aspects. And then now I'm kickboxing. Like that's what like most of my training is and things of that sort. But yeah, it was just kind of I think why it was so easy for me is because I also sat there for 2 years while I was in the black trunks, just thinking in my own head, like just where do you guys take the leash off? Like, you know what I mean? Like, just wait. Like if you think this is good, just wait. And then it came time, to graduate, move on, all that stuff. And I've always known that I was going to put my culture into my, at least my attire or something. I was trying to settle on something, but then I got the idea for that. I designed my idea for the gear. I made my own theme music. I was ready to rock, man. I was, at the end, just give me the ball. I sat there for 2 years in my head, just like trying to be ready for when you give me the ball or when I get that opportunity to say, hey, let's do it, And it's just more so just I get to be myself now, mixed with everything I learned just from being in the system, and it's the little things, it's the respect, all the, getting to the bus early and loading the bus, loading the all the young line work made me a better person. It made me a more disciplined, more respectful human being and things of that sort. So yeah, when it came time to go up, it was just like, I mean, it's time for that spotlight, right? I'm in a position to where I get some of that now. So it was just more a matter of me and all the stuff that I want to be and all the stuff that I want to do, getting that green light or the opportunity to go sink or swim, or So
how much of a difference?
I feel good. I'm treading water right now, like I'm doing all right. So I feel comfortable, and I'm getting more comfortable.
That's what I was going to ask. I mean, like how much of a difference do you feel like having? You said you spent 2 years wearing black trunks. You had all that time to come up with this character. Not a character. I think that's the beauty of it. Is it's not a character. Like you said, you've put your heritage into this and who you really are. Do you feel like you'd have had that same outcome if you'd have stayed on the independents in America, for example? Do you feel like the end result would have still been the same, or would you be a completely different person without the New Japan journey?
Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely be a different person in the sense that experience alone, right? So the experiences I've had with this company and with everyone inside of this company, the way it runs, the way the developmental system, all of it is directly, who I am now for being here for 2.5 years is directly been affected by that. I think I've always been very good at just being myself, and not afraid, especially the older I get, the less I care. But I definitely think I was always worried about what another company may do with my heritage, because it's something that hasn't been done in very good taste, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Pro wrestling before, and I mean that's stuff that was even asked. I remember after my second tryout, that was one of the questions that was asked. Someone had pointed to my tribal tattoos and asked if I would be willing to incorporate my heritage into my gimmick. And I said, absolutely, I would love to. I said, but I'm not going to be Tatanka, but then I was already prepared for that question. And again, it's something I want to do, but I want to do it my way, and I want to do it right. Like I don't think there's any reason why I shouldn't have the pen when I'm the one telling you what a Native American pro wrestler is in pro wrestling, let alone not just today, but what it should have been this whole time. Maybe more so just in the fact that it's just me being myself. When I say when I say this the way it should have been, not so much that this is the only, this is what a Native American wrestler should be, but it's me, a Native American who is a wrestler, being myself, and I think that's because it's something that I've, because I'm mixed, my mom's white, my dad's the Native American side, but I also get my German name from my dad's side as well, so it's always been this thing growing up, or it was, and kids are kids, and there's a million reasons why, and I understand now, but like growing up, it was like to my Native friends, I was white, I was never, I wasn't exactly Native American enough, but to my white friends, I mean, look at me, man, I'm definitely Indian,
Yeah.
But now, now as I'm older, and I mean, even by the time I was in, just in college and doing things like that, my community back home, my Native American, very supportive. And then now everyone back home is absolutely behind that, but for me, it's like, I don't think I'm any less Native American for, maybe literally in my blood count. Yes. But it doesn't make me not Native American. Right. And I don't have to act or talk a certain way, especially on television, especially if I'm putting my culture into it, and it's me. So like my gear is the nod to that, and that's it. Like
but you're still you, it's not like a caricature of like a Native American, it's just, you just happen to be have Native American heritage and you're a wrestler, and that's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be 100% of it. Like,
this character, and like, this is what you would say because you are Indian, what I mean? And like, granted, and I mean, just Japanese people in general as well, but everyone at New Japan has been incredibly respectful of my culture, and the Japanese people are incredibly respectful of my culture and fascinated, which, to be honest, feels really nice, like the curiosity, but it's coming from like a very respectful place. And man, it's a big deal to me, because I think growing up, it's really important to see in media, people that look like you, not just look like you, but people that look like your dad or your uncle, or someone, to see someone, I never looked at John Cena growing up and said like, oh, I can do that, look at me.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, just and I'm also from just the tiniest town. I graduated with like 60 kids in my high school, and I know 10 kids, that I can think of off the top of my head, that like growing up, that were so talented, and like so many things, and like all these small places we have that, but you don't, you don't think you're going to get any further than Reno, which is an hour away. You know, like I always wanted more, you know, but like you get ridiculed for those things, or it's just, you know, it's tough to have a especially ridiculous dream like this.
Yeah.
And I just think it's important for me to carry those things without fucking driving it down everybody's throat, because like I'm here to wrestle too. You know, I'm here. That's what I'm here for. But I also don't want to just show up, be on TV, collect a check, and then go home. You know what I mean? Like I want to add more meaning to this, you know, while I do it, while I can. Again, without suffocating anybody, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask you as well, obviously, before we run out of time, the future, when the world sort of reopens up again, you're in the heavyweight division. I mean, what's the future for Karl Fredericks? Are we looking G1? Are you got your eyes on Ibushi?
Man, right now, my biggest thing is March will make a year since I've been, you know, it's 10 months or so since I've been to Japan. March will make a year. I left there trying to rush back from an injury to get to be in the cup, and, you know, that fell through. Luckily, we got to the cup here in USA, but man, the landscape has changed immensely. You know, I do my long-term career goals are I want to hold every title in this company, and if I can do that without losing them, trust me, I will. You know, but yeah, man, I just got to get over there. Like that's my biggest. I'm dying watching all that go on, especially now that, you know, I graduated, and I'm like I'm dying to be in that mix, and I also have to level up, you know, and the only way to level up is to go over there and take my ass whippings and try to beat, you know what I mean? Try to beat people that are better than me right now, and do. So I'm dying, rotting over here in the States, man.
All right, playing fantasy booking here. One thing I really want to see, I don't know why, I don't know if it's just because I think it would match your attire, but I think you would look really good with the IWGP US Championship. And I think that's a championship I really like. I've seen it on Reddit before. I think you did a AMA fairly recently on Reddit. And a lot of people were saying they'd want to see you challenging for the US Championship. I'm guessing, like you said, you want to win all the titles there. That's got to be one of the titles you've got your eyes on as soon as you're back in the company, right?
I think for me, because that's one of those. I mean, it's still a newer championship, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the list. There's a list of amazing talent that have held that title, and also is this last. I think if the world wasn't what it was this last year, that you know, that title would have so much more prestige in it. I mean, it's got plenty of prestige now, but, you know, a whole year where it was just on pause, you know.
Yeah.
And it was only because of COVID, you know. And but I really, you know, being a New Japan USA, you know, I got signed to the LA Dojo, you know, and I am the first guy Asian and, you know, American that won that Young Lions Cup, and I can't think of a better way, you know, my legacy as one of the American Lions to take that title, and then put everything I have into having that strap and defending it with everything.
Yeah.
You know, as many times as I can. I want to do it, you know, more than I've done it. And I think that the only reason that's not happening now is because of the COVID situation, you know. And I think we can all agree that that title is yet to have a run from anybody where, you know, it's just an opportunity thing. You know, the opportunity hasn't really been there as much. And yeah, I'm not afraid to call my shot with stuff like that, you know. But that's going to be the attitude I have with every championship. I mean, I hate losing, you know. That's every match, but I want to that's my first real big goal, I think, that is probably realistic, I would say.
It'll happen.
People, you know, want to see me challenge for that, so that's nice to hear as well.
Yeah, it'll happen, dude. But I'm terrified the Zoom's going to cut us off. So
it says less than a minute.
It's been an absolute pleasure, dude. We genuinely hope to get you back on at some point in the future.
I would love to. Great.
No, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Questions, I always appreciate it.
Anytime, dude. But for now, all the best, dude. We'll stay in touch, get you back on down the road. But for now, man, take care. All the best. We know you're going to be a megastar. We'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you.
Anytime, man. Karl Fredericks, thank you so much.